Welcome to the pilot action, nature conservation and ecological connectivity in the Erlenbach area of the ReCo forest, located in Hof district, Bavaria. This site is part of the cross-border Tier 1 priority area identified in our regional restoration and connectivity plan. Although peatlands cover only 0.4% of Earth's surface, they account for nearly a quarter of land use-related CO2 emissions. Rewetting them is vital for climate and biodiversity goals. The Tier 1 connectivity area shown here marks zones with high ecological potential for rewetting and habitat linkage. Historical maps show that many of the now forested areas were once open wetlands, shown here in bright green. More and more key areas are now publicly owned or have been acquired by Bund Naturschutz, shown here in blue and green on the map, enabling long-term ecological restoration. We now zoom into the core pilot action area, which lays the groundwork for broader restoration efforts. Mapping revealed surface waters and wetland features that structure the local hydrology. The drainage plan was reconstructed from historic records. Removal is planned for upcoming restoration phases. We begin our aerial journey in the north of the pilot area, flying over an intact flat bog. This area was acquired by Bund Naturschutz during the project. Next, we pass over a drained meadow. An animation highlights the drained area. Although the area is in public ownership, rewetting measures are pending due to the existing lease agreements. We now approach the degraded peatland, formerly afforested with spruce. Following storm damage and bark beetle infestation, this area was acquired by Bund Naturschutz. The lower wetter parts of this area were cleared to restore opened wetland habitats. In the central zone, visible signs of rewetting are already apparent. Here we see the recently cleared area that was, until the start of the project, a homogeneous spruce plantation. Toward the southern edge of the site, a shallow retention dam is planned to hold water in the landscape. To the right, recently acquired Bund plots extend the project area further southward. In a final reverse flight, we pass over rewetting sites, drainage ditches and recovering wetlands. These visible results are just the beginning. Rewetting peatlands involves blocking drains, building small dams and removing invasive trees. Where land is secured, restoration supports biodiversity, improves water balance and helps mitigate climate change.
The Škocjanski Zatok Nature Reserve, a brackish wetland near the city of Koper on Slovenia's coast, is one of the country's most unique ecosystems and also part of the Natura 2000 network. Its rich biodiversity is shaped by the dynamic interaction between marine and terrestrial habitats. However, climate change, especially rising sea levels, poses a serious threat to all coastal wetlands, particularly those located on low-lying sedimentary shores like Škocjanski Zatok. Without action, part of this precious area could disappear by 2060, leading to the loss of salt-tolerant vegetation. Those are key habitats and essential nesting grounds for birds and other wildlife. To preserve the reserve's remarkable biodiversity and ecological value, we must adapt our management strategies to this new reality. That is why, under the ReCo project within the Interreg Central Europe program, we have launched a pilot action to help adapt this ecosystem to future challenges. In March 2023, we constructed 2 new mud flats in the center of the brackish lagoon, together covering 420 square meters. These new areas were carefully shaped from 710 cubic meters of sediment excavated directly from the lagoon's secondary channels and using special machinery. This is floating excavators. This helped restore water circulation and encourage development of helophytic vegetation, which is vital to coastal wetlands. We varied the micro-elevation of the mudflats to allow natural habitat succession. By doing so, we aim to create the perfect nesting conditions for target bird species like the common tern, little tern, and also Kentish plover. And the result speaks for themselves. In spring 2025, we recorded 49 nests of common tern, 4 nests of little tern, and 4 nests of black-winged stilt, and even 1 nest of Kentish plover and 1 nest of common redshank. So this is an incredible success in just 2 breeding seasons. These mudflats are helping reverse biodiversity loss and are now vital stepping stones for migratory birds along the Adriatic flyway. We are, of course, monitoring progress with high-resolution drone surveys and bird observation, as well as bird ringing. Visitors can even join our citizen science activities, learning to identify species and contributing to environmental data collection. This, we must say, like hands-on approach helps raise awareness and builds pretty much a stronger connection between people and nature. The pilot action was led by Dobbs BirdLife Slovenia with a strong support from the municipality of Koper, Port of Koper, and Slovenian Water Agency, and of course our ReCo project partners.
We are in pilot region 1 near Lužný potok, Zimbach, which is border stream between Czechia and Bavaria. It is one of the most important localities for the occurrence of freshwater pearl mussel and butterfly marsh fritillary. It looks like wilderness, but it's a cultural land, and sustainable management is needed. We can see very nice and species-rich meadows here, but without mowing and appropriate management, it's threatened by overgrowing bushes and whole degradation.
You can see here eggs of marsh fritillary, which is a valuable butterfly species living on wet meadows, which are only extensively managed. The project ReCo focuses on restoration of valuable habitats and species. And here in our pilot region near Ash, we focus on meadows, both wet and dry meadows, and on streams. A big problem in the area is lack of water, especially in summer. And this has 2 main reasons. One reason are changes made by people in the past, drainage of the landscape, straightening of streams. And second reason is climate change.
We revitalized a valuable meadow ecosystem featuring 2 artificial streams. These streams play a crucial role in collecting food particles for the freshwater pearl mussels, effectively replacing the function of missing natural watercourses. Over time, the streams had become filled with sediment and overgrown vegetation, and they were non-functional. We carefully cleaned and restored them, bringing them back to life. In addition, we cleared old biomass and scrub from another wet meadow. This area is now ready for restoration of small pools, which will further enhance biodiversity and support wetland species. Conservation efforts in the Ash region demonstrate that protecting a single endangered species, such as the freshwater pearl mussel, requires integrated landscape-level approach, management of multiple habitat types, implementation of species-specific conservation measures, and, critically, transboundary collaboration among diverse stakeholders. This highlights the complexity of effective biodiversity conservation.
In Poland's Insko Lakeland, at the western edge of the Green Belt, the European bison is returning, stronger, freer, and better protected than ever before. Through the project, ReCo, restoring degraded ecosystems along the Green Belt to improve and enhance biodiversity and ecological connectivity, conservationists have taken decisive steps to secure the future of this iconic species. Led by the Green Federation Gaia, with strong support from the West Pomeranian Nature Society as an associated partner, 10 bison were fitted with advanced GPS collars, part of a broader effort to monitor and manage migration across northwestern Poland. Over 11,000 new location points, combined with historical data from 2019 to 2022, allowed experts to map barriers, design migration corridors, and propose changes to infrastructure, protecting both wildlife and people. The data powers an early warning system coordinated by the West Pomeranian Nature Society. When bison approach villages or crops, local teams respond quickly, preventing damage and reducing tension. Recommendations for safe crossings have already reached local authorities. New signage has been installed, and proposals for a wildlife overpass are under review to further reduce vehicle collisions. The results are clear. Over 350 bison now live across the region, with nearly 80 in Insko Lakeland alone. Herds are mixing naturally, and healthy reproduction continues, a major win for genetic diversity. But conservation is more than collars and data. The project involved farmers, forest services, the military, tourism guides, and local governments, all brought together to build long-term solutions. The West Pomeranian Nature Society selected the animals, supported collaring, and led workshops. Its ongoing role will be to maintain and analyze telemetry data for years to come. Meanwhile, public attitudes are shifting. The bison is once again seen as part of the region's identity, an ambassador for coexistence and living heritage. Co-financed by the EU Interreg Central Europe program, this ReCo pilot shows that science, community, and partnership can restore not just species, but the ecosystems they shape and the places we all share.
Welcome to Teatal National Park, Austria's smallest national park at the border to Czech Republic. One of our main highlights in the national park is the European wildcat. So right now in the project of ReCo, Restore to Connect, we are doing research on wildcats in the national park, and we are also restoring habitats for creating corridors for wildcats and other wild animals in the area. Our pilot actions create corridors across the landscape. Wildcat and different other species are enabled by those corridors to roam freely across healthy landscapes. The European wildcat was thought to be extinct in Austria for many years. About 20 years ago, some evidence of European wildcat in the Teatal National Park was found. And in this project, we're using innovative methods for research on wildcats. So here you can see a lure stick that's attracting wildcat by a special scent. Behind us, you can see a wild camera that takes pictures of the wildcat, and the cats are leaving their hair behind that you can analyze afterwards. So in the ReCo project, we analyzed different hair samples of wildcat, and we found out that one individual originated from another population near the Danube, which was quite a sensation for us. To get information on what's going on in the wilderness of the national park, we are checking the footage of the wild cameras regularly. Okay, so here we can see some snapshots of a wildcat. You can see the black tail. In the ReCo project, we are also conducting an innovative pilot study. We released 2 wildcats with GPS collars, so we can learn more about their behavior in the wilderness. In our pilot region, we have a lot of dry meadows, which are scattered around in the landscape like stepping stone biotopes. They have been degrading in the last century, and we are trying to keep them open by mowing and grazing to keep them healthy and keep their function alive. One of our pilot actions in the ReCo project was planting over 400 trees in a community action. By planting trees in a vasted landscape, we are creating corridors for animals and other species to roam freely around in the landscape. We planted suitable trees that are perfect for this habitat, and it will take a few years, but after a few years we will find a reforested habitat here.
Hello, we are now in the Western Karavanke Mountains in Slovenia, where flowering alpine meadows are a valuable natural asset in need of careful conservation. It is also home to the protected mountain daffodil that blooms from April to May and takes years to develop. It is sensitive to environmental changes, intensified agriculture practices, and also increased visitor traffic during its blooming period. In the pilot action, we upgraded the daffodil conservation program, which the municipality of Jesenice has been actively supporting since 2016. By 2025, 38 dedicated landowners are taking part in this initiative that focus on sustainable land management, such as late mowing and grazing, organic fertilization, and the preservation of steppe meadows. We've developed a reseeding program that uses local seeds to help daffodils thrive. We've tested remote mowing in hard-to-reach areas. We organized awareness-raising events like hiking tours, workshops for farmers, and virtual experience of alpine meadows, pointing out the biodiversity of this area. This work wouldn't be possible without the collaboration of many stakeholders that they work here, like Institute of Nature Conservation, Municipality of Jesenice, Development Agency of Upper Gorenjska area, Tourist Information Center, then Golica Tourist Association, and of course the most important, landowners and residents. We are currently standing on one of the meadows included into the program, and today here with us is the local, very dedicated one, Klemen. He's in the program from the very beginning. So Klemen, hello.
Hello.
Can you tell us something more about why do you think it's so important to manage this land properly, and what do these daffodils mean to you?
I'm a local here. I'm a very dedicated local, and this land is part of who I am. Just like the daffodils are part of our natural heritage and our identity in this area. So by mowing later, like this meadow in the beginning of July, I give the nature the time it needs. The daffodils can bloom fully and spread their seeds. This is more than farming. It's responsibility we all share, all the locals who live here. It's also important that visitors understand our work in these sensitive areas, because every action affects the rich biodiversity of our alpine meadows. Only by respecting the nature together we can keep this place alive for future generations.
Thank you, Klemen, for that. As we can see, the dedication of people like Klemen shows how even small changes in land management can make a big difference. Together, we can keep these meadows alive for nature and for the people who call this landscape home.
Small ponds and wetlands are among the key features of the Central European landscape. These specific aquatic habitats offer many crucial ecological functions. Most notably, they retain water, support biodiversity, and act as important biocorridors. In times of climate change and frequent droughts, their role is more relevant than ever. In the past, wetlands and ponds were a common part of the Czech landscape. They occurred naturally in river floodplains, riparian forests, and also as man-made features such as small ponds, watering holes, or temporarily flooded areas. In many cases, these habitats were maintained through traditional land management, mowing, grazing, and regular clearing. However, especially in the second half of the 20th century, the landscape underwent a dramatic transformation. With the rise of intensive agriculture, drainage schemes, and urban development, there was a massive loss of small water bodies. Many wetlands were drained and ponds filled in. As a result, the landscape lost its ability to retain water, leading not only to the disappearance of valuable habitats, but also to increased risks of drought and flooding. Small ponds are a key environment for a wide range of species, particularly amphibians. These animals lay their eggs in still water, where their larvae, tadpoles, develop. Some reptiles also find their home here, such as the grass snake, which preys on amphibians and small fish. A wide variety of invertebrates are also associated with small, still water bodies and their surroundings. Among the most typical are dragonflies, whose adults can be seen flying around the water or resting on nearby wetland vegetation. Their larvae live below the surface on submerged plants or on the bottom, which is also inhabited by many other remarkable creatures, such as this leech. As part of the ReCo project, Potigi National Park built a system of 3 ponds and revitalized the adjacent wetland on the site of former meadows and salt marshes, which had been degraded into biologically poor, dense growths of reeds and shrubs. These ponds can serve as an important habitat for the European wildcat, as they enhance landscape connectivity and provide shelter, water, or additional food sources as amphibians and birds. The work was completed in April 2025, and life began returning to the newly created ponds almost immediately. The first plankton and other aquatic invertebrates appeared in the water very quickly. In the very first year, successful breeding of the first amphibians, specifically the European tree frog, was also recorded. Exposed, moist banks attract a variety of species that come to drink the mineral-rich water. Moreover, animal tracks began to appear on these banks, confirming the attractiveness of the ponds for mammals and suggesting that the European wildcat could potentially be monitored using this method. The wider area around the ponds quickly became overgrown with vegetation, where dragonflies are often seen basking in the sun. Various other wetland species can also be found here, as this water meadow grasshopper. The newly constructed ponds clearly increased local biodiversity and provided valuable habitat and biocorridor for European wildcats potentially migrating northward from their new territories in the Austrian National Park Theidel.
Our pilot area is sited on the Karst Plateau, which is a flat, quite extended area characterized by the presence of a very dry soil. And this dry grassland habitat is what we are going to preserve throughout this project. The area is located inside the Miramare and coast of Trieste MAB Reserve, which is an area of 3,000 hectares inserted in the network of the UNESCO reserves that aim to preserve places in which there is an harmonious coexistence of biodiversity and human activities.
The Landa Carsica is a dry grassland. It's a semi-natural environment because it's the result of human action over the centuries. Most of all, the pasture and the human deforestation. This particular situation led a plant evolution in order to resist to the trampling and to the grazing of animals. So the Landa Carsica is very rich in biodiversity and in endemic species and protected species.
The abandonment of the pastoral activities is what is leading to the biodiversity loss. And this is happening because there are some pioneer species that are favoring the advancement of the woodland. There are 2 main pioneer species, the Cotinus cogiglia, a small bush which tends to colonize very quickly open areas, and the Pinus nigra, which tends to make the soil acidic and is a fire-prone species.
We are doing the different type of monitoring activities. The most of all, plants, butterflies, beetles, bats and birds. It is very important to check the biodiversity of the local area and to check the biodiversity before, during and after the intervention, and to checking also the possible presence of alien species.
The on-field operation will take place in an area of about less than 3 hectares. The first phase will consist in the cutting of the Pinus nigra trees, whereas the second phase will consist of the eradication of the Cotynus cogiglia bushes. It is very important that in the meanwhile, while the bushes are eradicated, the seedlings of native species now growing in a nursery are transplanted in the same time. And also some seeds of autochthonous species are spread. This is useful to avoid leaving the soil naked and thus exposed to the upcoming of alien species.
In this particular case, the human action to remove trees and bushes, it's important to maintain the land biodiversity and species that are threatened by the growth on the wood. One single restoration action is important, but it's not enough to maintain the biodiversity because it's necessary a long-term action.
The management in the middle and long term can be carried out only through the reintroduction of pastoral activities. For this reason, it's crucial to find local stakeholders and engage them in the pilot action restoration since the beginning.